Sometimes you got to let the money people do the money thing. You know what I mean? And the Dallas Cowboys, they stay on the wrong end of things. So listen, come on with it.
Jokes pour in on the Franklin Franco injury attorney text line about the Cowboys and Stephen Jones not spending with the salary cap increase yesterday. Good morning, Metroplex. Sean, RJ, and Bobby with you here on DFW Sports Station 105.3 The Fan, otherwise known as your official home of the Cowboys and the Rangers. The salary cap is going up. Going to fall in the range of $277 and $281 million. That is an increase from last year's cap of $255 and the 2023 cap of $224. So about a $53 million spending increase for teams over the past 2 seasons.
$53 million. And we've been talking about this for a long time, not a short time. Leveraging your future with your presence, knowing that you're going to get an increase. The Cowboys should have been utilizing and using this even during the time of when they found out there was an increase in profit in the pandemic. You got to be able to leverage your future, manage these contracts as if though you're going to get more money. Now, can you get bitten by it? Yes, but that's why you use the leverage. And the Cowboys don't know how to forecast and budget those particular parameters. And that's why we are at where we are at. But let's listen to the rest of this right here, right quick. Mm-hmm.
Yep, and just year over year, about $26 million. And there were a number of teams, Cowboys were one of them, that this time last year believed the cap was only going to go up $10 million. So a lot of the...
But wait, Jerry Jones, with much arrogance and confidence, tells us, I'm basically plugged in, all right? Nobody knows the salary cap like I do. There's no other M or F-er that can general manage like I can, and the one thing I have down pat, all right? And he came off with this arrogance during the Schottenheimer press conference. I know the cap increase, and you don't.
Yeah, and it's $16 million over what they thought.
$16 million. Come on with it. Now, Jerry, I get it. The Cowboys operating like a mom and pop's father and son business been our reason why we had this 30-season drought. Is one of the finite reasons why we are where we are at because of the lack of ability to see down the stretch on how you can leverage your contracts. And this is the reason why when you walk in and you sound so self-assured with yourself, the man that knows everything and got to be the smartest man in the room 9 times out of 10, when you don't bring someone else in that room that's smarter than you, you got these type of issues as it relates to financials. It's kind of like having, once you start making some money over 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures or what have you, and you're still using TurboTaxes to do your taxes, or Pookie and Ray Ray and them to do your taxes. Uncle Earl, hey, he can still do your taxes. No, you got to let people who is very much so well off on knowing how to handle those books do those things. Those who have true licenses to do those things. But the Cowboys just don't operate that way.
Thought potentially, it's going to be as little as 14 over what they thought, as much as 6 or 12 and as much as 16. Either way, it was off. And that's, in some ways you can look at it as, look on the bright side, there's more money, more flexibility. But the other end of it goes, why were your projections so off? Who was responsible for the projections? How does it compare to the rest of the league and how prepared they were for the bump? And how did it impact financial decisions you made? Like, if you knew you had $16 million extra, are you signing Derrick Henry last year?
Right.
That's the question that probably needs to be asked of Jerry next week in Indy.
What's
So
your
now let's
point?
spend it,
hang on,
RJ.
but
So why does it matter what their projections were? You could change things. It's not like they found out the salary cap was going up after free agency.
What do you mean? Why does it matter? Like, why does it matter what their projections are for how much money they'll have to spend?
Well, yeah, because let's just say you find out. Let's just say you find out yesterday that you have $12 million extra to spend in 3 weeks. That doesn't change anything.
Yes, it does. Because Derrick Henry, his first year cap.
Yeah, it changes a lot because of the way you can project and forecast. And with the inability to do those things, you don't take the risk. There are blind risk, then there are calculated risk. Financials, you got to know how to look at the financial risk of the calculations. Now, granted, there will be people to say, hey, these guys are billionaires with a B, and you don't get that by mistake. 9 times out of 10, you can hit a golden goose, and all of a sudden, your money is going to continue to make itself, but that doesn't mean that all of a sudden knowledge is poured upon you, right? Jerry Jones took the financial risk of $140 million to purchase this team. And yes, he's a brilliant marketing guy. Doesn't mean that he can, do your algebra test for you. Doesn't mean that he can do other things for you. Now, he may be crafty. In the olden ways, all of that stuff works. Deadline make deals. Hey, the whole thing that I want to shake someone's hand and look them in the eye and their word be my word and your word is bond type of thing. All of that old school stuff, let's wait for the leaves to fall. That's old school stuff. You got to be in tune with the reality of what's going on now. Those olden ways, yes. You couldn't wait for the leaves to fall. That philosophy and principle may work back in the days. Deadline make deals. That could still work even to this day. But you're going to lose out on so many other things being archaic. So you got to make the necessary adjustments of modern day time. We got AI out here. We got unbelievable knowledge and skill sets and things like that. The way of the old is done. Yes, I can still get to point A to point B on a horse, right? But that way is old. You can still travel. From 100 miles is still 100 miles, whether you're on a bike, a horse, or a car. But how you get to that point A to point B has changed over these last 30 seasons, baby. That's all I'm saying. And they made things more comfortable now for those who are willing to use technology and wisdom and understanding of it. And the Jones is saying, nah, man, just give me the horses, man. I just want to ride the horse. Get on up there. Yeah. Yeah, get on up there. We doing it the old way, right? The new way is making sure you borrow a little bit from the future, pay it back a little bit at a time, but knowing that, hey, the future money is still going to increase. So you take that calculated risk is what I'm saying. So you shouldn't swabble up over a few dollars, right? And when I'm saying a few dollars, I'm talking about $4 to $5 million, right? Because you're going to get that cushion on the back end. Come on with it.
Cap charge, that was the whole point. His first year cap charge was low, and they were saying you sign him to a 2-3 year deal, you're not going to be able to carry the weight of the bigger
you're talking about future year. Okay, I thought you were talking about this year's offseason. Like, I don't. Yeah, okay. All right.
No, I mean, this year's offseason, yeah, they'll know the number, and then they'll go. It's more about last year, how did you spend?
Yeah, how did the projection affect last year's offseason?
Well, they told us it affected them.
Well, I think they because, to me, I'm just looking at it from that individual year. The future years, there's no way to project the future years because you don't know what revenue is going to be like the future years.
No way possible the revenue. But you can use the average of the last 3 seasons and say, okay, all right, it's going to be at least in between $10 to $22 million. And then you project that, spread that out, calculate that, and use it that way. But if you're somehow hearing this and all of a sudden, you know someone else while you're driving in your automobile, not on your horse. Yeah, get on down, and you're in your automobile. And then all of a sudden, someone jumped the curb and they slam right into you. This is what you need to do. Pick up the phone and call these guys.
It starts from the first phone call. Most of the time, you're going to talk to Gene Burkett, a 30-year partner. You're not going to talk to some employee that just got put on the phones that day.
There are things that are so crucial, especially if it's a cataclysmic event, to have our experts get out and look at the vehicle, witness statements, photos, the whole thing.
Call Frankel first. Chosen by the people, feared by the insurance companies. Call Frankel first.
No doubt, that's 214 or 817 and all of the threes you can dial. About 9,000 individuals move to the city of Dallas a month. And you want someone whose expertise is in that area and especially knowing the layout of the land and everything. And that's Frankel and Frankel Personal Injury Lawyers. Be sure to check them out. On top of that, they have a combined of 100 years of experiences, so they would take great care of you, not advantages of you, like them insurance companies or Jerry Jones, I guess. You can put him in there, or Diddy in there.
I like when you like this, Daddy. I like when you scrambling and scraping.
You don't have to scramble and scrape with them. They'll take good care of you. If you can't dial that number, be sure to check out frankelfirm.com. Just visit their website. They'll take good care of you there, too. Let's go. DC for life. Let's listen to the rest of this.
But you have to. You do have to project it out. The Cowboys and all other teams, they will generally, so for instance, it's 2025. They probably have projections out right now till 29 because they've just got to have a baseline of here's how we're going to operate. Even if I think most teams operate on a conservative end because they don't want to overestimate and then they're making big cuts. Green Bay had to do that a couple of years ago. So I think generally what they're doing is slightly underestimating, but I think the Cowboys thought it was 10, so they may have been operating like 8 as a bump or something like that.
That's crazy. But save money, scare money, make no money. Come on with it.
And that does impact how do you choose to split somebody's cap charge? How do you choose to front end somebody's money? And that's something that projection probably impacted things.
It doesn't matter anyway. They're not going to spend the money.
Let's get down to it.
Let's be fair. They're just not going to spend the money either way. They don't have an extra $22 million. The NFL didn't inform the Cowboys in the league they have an extra $22 million to spend. They informed the Cowboys that they get an extra $22 million.
Or, as
the pocket or wherever they want to do.
The Cowboys, the way the Cowboys probably view it, I would guess, is that's potentially $16 million worth of Dak's cap charge we don't have to restructure and can just eat on this season. That's how I would imagine they look at it.
Or as RJ maybe suggested, is this some wiggle room with Osa to play around with?
Maybe.
Yes, it is some.
What's your point?
It is some wiggle room for Osa. You can now solidify his contract if you want him. Now, if you don't want him, then you just let this go and say, well, you can make the justifications of not spending for him. And those are things that we would have to really take a look at, Cowboy Nation. Now, there are other ways we can look into this far as freeing up money. We went and we talked about this just the other day. Shout out to my guys, man, that's being in this mix and being able to get things going the best way possible. I just want to say this before we pull this up, ladies and gentlemen. The Dallas Cowboys do have the ability to spread and get this money out the best way possible. As of February the 19th, 2025, Dallas Cowboys have around $2.47 million under the cap, meaning that we in the green. But if they want to spread things out, they can do this. Potentially, they can move and create cap this way. Move Dak Prescott, restructure $37.1 million. CeeDee Lamb, they can restructure $20.5. Terrence Steele, $9 million. You can move some stuff around with him. Trayvon Diggs, you don't have to touch it, but you can, and you can restructure with $5.8. Most of his guarantees are already done with anyhow. So that's more cushion that you will have down the stretch. And then give Michael Parsons an extension of 18.2. Add that to his contract before his contract is over with. And then that way you can get more and more out of all of these guys with the flexibility. I know a lot of people talking about, hey, man, I can't stand Dak Prescott. He's the guy that's the problem. Get rid of him and everything will be forgiven. But I'm going to tell you guys, by Dak Prescott getting paid $250 million, his contract doesn't expire until the year 2032. Those voidable years are there for a reason. You can slide and allocate that money that way, and therefore it can give you some cushion, some good landing room as far as that money. I get it. Y'all don't like Dak Prescott. A third of you guys don't like Dak Prescott. But his contract was built so that you can restructure and move money, give it as a bonus, and then you can spread and allocate the cap hit out, because you definitely don't want that cap hit to be so much in one area, right? So if the Cowboys are wise financially, they would do the right things. Just speaking on the financials aspect of it. Now, granted, the Dallas Cowboys, are we a team that can still compete? Yes, we can compete. But what I'm saying and what I'm getting at is that the Cowboys must, M-U-S-T, don't put the Y on there, it'll be musty at that point, but they must figure out a way to get free agencies in the building. The last 15 to 20 teams to lift up that Lombardi trophy, they did something in free agency on the front end, or they did some type of trade acquisition. This is not an element by surprise, by the way. This is an ongoing thing and a consistent one. So the Cowboys, in order to dance around in the postseason, they must figure out a way to get it busy in the free agency or some type of trade acquisition. We just can't be draft dependent and draft heavy is what I'm getting at. The Cowboys must figure this out, and if not, we'll be talking about the same thing. Oh, man, look at the excuses when they get down to postseason. Rookies are good. Rookies can help elevate a team, but they can't do it by themselves. There will be growing pains if such, right? That's all we're saying. Hopefully, the Cowboys can figure out the money on the money sides of it and get things going in the right way.
Maybe. Now here's the thing. I don't know, like I said, as of last summer, I know their projections were around 10. So that impacted how things were. But they may have gone through this season and those projections may have shifted. It wasn't really a discussion, so we don't know how it shifted. But if they did have a better idea, that they may have already been accounting for that with Osa. But I mean, this, as big a bump as this bump only just now took the Cowboys salary cap to break even, because they were like $14 million in the red before this projection yesterday. So they were going to have to move around $14 million just to get to even. So all this does right now, it gets them to even. Now they still got to make moves just to free up money.
They got to make moves to free up money. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. Cowboy Nation, they must do what they got to do. If not, we'll be in the same spot we've been in for the last 30 years, 30 seasons. Let's figure it out. Post me your thoughts. Post me your concerns down below. Cowboy Nation, let's figure this out one way or another. Be sure to hit that like, share this content. Let that friend or that neighbor know where to go when it's time to tune in to Cowboy Sports Talk and beyond. DC for life, not for short. Peace. We about. Let's go.